Welcome to DCF Investigations. It is the morning after Christmas, 1996. The streets of Boulder, Colorado are quiet, dusted with a fresh layer of snow that reflects the twinkling lights still strung up on the stately Tudor homes of the University Hill neighborhood. Inside the 15-room mansion at 755 15th Street, the air is still heavy with the scent of pine and the remnants of holiday celebration. But at 5:52 in the morning, that silence is shattered by a frantic, breathless telephone call to 911. The voice on the line is Patricia Ramsey, known to her friends as Patsy. She is screaming. She tells the dispatcher that her daughter is gone, snatched from her bed in the middle of the night, and that a ransom note has been left on the back staircase. This moment marks the beginning of one of the most polarizing, scrutinized, and haunting murder mysteries in American history. It is a case that stripped away the veneer of suburban perfection to reveal a dark underbelly of suspicion, incompetence, and tragedy. Today, we are going deep into the labyrinth of the JonBenét Ramsey case. We will walk through the timeline minute by minute, examine the forensic evidence that was both discovered and destroyed, and explore the psychological profiles of everyone involved. From the basement wine cellar to the grand jury room. This is the exhaustive story of a little girl who became a ghost in the machine of the American justice system. To understand the magnitude of this tragedy, we must first understand the family at the center of the storm. In 1996, the Ramseys were the picture of American success. John Ramsey was a wealthy businessman, the president of Access Graphics, a computer services company that had recently hit the $1 billion mark in sales. He was a man of quiet authority, respected in the community, and known for his calm demeanor. Patsy Ramsey was a former beauty queen, having held the title of Miss West Virginia in 1977. She was vibrant, social, and deeply involved in the community and her children's lives. They had two children, 9-year-old Burke and 6-year-old JonBenét. JonBenét was not just any 6-year-old. She was a rising star in the world of child beauty pageants. With her blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and charismatic smile, she had won titles like Little Miss Colorado, National Tiny Miss Beauty, and Little Miss Christmas. The footage of her performing, wearing makeup, feathers, and sequins, would later be looped endlessly on television screens around the world, fueling a public perception that would turn the tide of sympathy against her parents. But before the media circus, she was simply a kindergarten student at High Peaks Elementary, a child who loved her dog, Jacques, and believed in Santa Claus. The timeline of the tragedy begins on Christmas Day. The family had spent a joyous day in opening presents. Video footage from that morning shows JonBenét happy and excited, riding a new bicycle. Later that evening, the Ramseys attended a Christmas dinner party at the home of their close friends, Fleet and Priscilla White. By all accounts, the evening was uneventful. The Ramseys returned home around 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. JonBenét had fallen asleep in the car. John Ramsey carried his sleeping daughter up the spiral staircase to her room on the second floor. Patsy helped get her into her white long johns with the red star on the chest. This was the last time anyone, other than her killer, would see JonBenét Ramsey alive. What happened between the time the lights went out at the Ramsey home and the frantic call the next morning remains a void filled with speculation and contradictory evidence. According to Patsy, she woke up early on the morning of December 26th, around 5:30, to prepare for a planned family trip to Charlevoix, Michigan. As she walked down the back spiral staircase toward the kitchen, she found 3 sheets of paper laid out on one of the steps. It was a ransom note. This note is perhaps the most baffling piece of evidence in the entire case. It was handwritten on a pad of paper that belonged to the Ramseys, using a Sharpie pen that was also found in the home. The note was unusually long, 2.5 pages, and addressed to Mr. Ramsey. It claimed to be from a group calling themselves a small foreign faction. The author demanded $118,000 for the safe return of JonBenét. This specific amount has been the subject of intense scrutiny, as it was the exact amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus that year, a figure that would have been known to very few people. The language of the note was bizarre, a mix of faux terrorist rhetoric and lines lifted from popular action movies like Speed and Ransom. It warned John not to contact the police or the FBI, threatening that if he did, JonBenét would be beheaded. It ended with the chilling phrase, "Victory," SBTC. Despite the specific warnings not to call the authorities, Patsy immediately called friends and the police. When the Boulder police arrived, the scene they walked into was already compromised. In a kidnapping case, the primary objective is to preserve the scene and wait for the kidnappers to contact the family. However, the responding officers did not treat the house as a crime scene. They did not seal off the rooms. Friends of the Ramseys, summoned by Patsy's frantic calls, arrived at the house. They walked through the kitchen, sat in the living room, and even cleaned up surfaces, unknowingly wiping away potential fingerprints and DNA. The house was a chaotic hub of activity, with victim advocates, friends, and police officers mingling in the very space where a capital crime had occurred. For hours, JonBenét was presumed missing. The police conducted a cursory search of the house but found no sign of forced entry. They checked the doors and looked in the common areas, but missed the body. It wasn't until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, hours after the initial call, that Detective Linda Arndt, who had been left alone with the family and their friends, asked John Ramsey to search the house again to see if anything was amiss. John, accompanied by his friend Fleet White, went directly to the basement. In the basement, there was a windowless room known as the wine cellar. John Ramsey opened the door and turned on the light. There, on the cold concrete floor, lay the body of his daughter. She was covered with a white blanket. Her mouth was covered with duct tape, and her wrists were bound with a nylon cord. John immediately picked her up, carrying her upstairs and placing her on the floor of the living room. This act, born of fatherly desperation and grief, unfortunately destroyed the integrity of the final crime scene. The body had been moved, the positioning altered, and any trace evidence on the blanket or her clothing was now at risk of cross-contamination. The discovery of the body shifted the investigation from a kidnapping to a homicide. The autopsy, performed the next day, revealed a brutal and confusing picture. JonBenét had been strangled with a garrote, a strangulation device fashioned from a broken paintbrush handle and a length of nylon cord. The cord was wrapped tightly around her neck, buried deep in the soft tissue. But strangulation was not the only cause of death. She had also sustained a massive skull fracture, an 8.5-inch crack along the side of her head, caused by a severe blow from a blunt object. The medical examiner determined that the blow to the head would have knocked her unconscious, but she was still alive when she was strangled. Furthermore, the autopsy revealed evidence of sexual assault. There was vagitus and evidence of prior trauma, suggesting this may not have been an isolated incident, though the findings were complex and debated by experts for years. The time of death was estimated to be roughly between 10 p.m. on Christmas night and 6 a.m. the following morning. One of the most critical and debated pieces of forensic evidence found during the autopsy was the presence of undigested pineapple in JonBenét's stomach. The digestive state of the fruit suggested she had eaten it shortly before she died. However, the Ramseys consistently maintained that JonBenét had gone straight to bed after the party and had not eaten anything. When investigators later searched the kitchen, they found a bowl of pineapple on the breakfast table alongside a spoon. This bowl had fingerprints on it, not John's, not Patsy's, but those of her 9-year-old brother, Burke. This detail would become the cornerstone of one of the most persistent theories: that JonBenét had woken up, gone downstairs, and taken a piece of pineapple from her brother's bowl, sparking a fit of rage that resulted in an accidental killing. As the investigation deepened, the Boulder Police Department split into factions. One group believed the evidence pointed overwhelmingly to the parents. The lack of forced entry, the ransom note written on family stationery, the changing stories, and the statistical likelihood of family involvement in child homicides all cast a shadow over John and Patsy. This theory posited that the death was accidental, perhaps a result of parental rage over bedwetting or a sibling dispute. And the kidnapping was an elaborate staging to cover it up. The behavior of the Ramseys in the days following the murder drew intense criticism. They hired high-powered defense attorneys and a public relations team almost immediately. They refused to be interviewed separately by the police for months. To the public and the police, this looked like the behavior of guilty people closing ranks. However, their defenders argued that the Boulder police had already decided they were guilty and were trying to build a case to fit that conclusion, making legal protection a necessity. The ransom note became the subject of exhaustive analysis. Handwriting experts were brought in to compare the writing on the note to samples from John and Patsy. John was quickly ruled out. Burke was ruled out. But Patsy Ramsey could not be excluded. While no expert ever definitively testified that she wrote the note, many concluded that there were significant similarities in her handwriting style and the script on the page. The note's length and its theatrical language led profilers to suggest it was written by a woman, someone who consumed dramatic media and was in a state of panic but trying to sound in control. The phrase "foreign faction" and the demand for the exact amount of the bonus pointed to someone intimate with the family's finances and desperate to direct attention away from the home. However, there was another side to the investigation, one that pointed away from the family and toward an intruder. This is known as the Intruder theory. Proponents of this theory point to physical evidence that the police initially dismissed or overlooked. There was a broken window in the basement train room. A suitcase was found beneath the window, and a scuff mark on the wall suggested someone might have used it to climb out. A footprint from a boot, identified as a high-tech brand boot, was found in the mold on the basement floor near the body. John Ramsey did not own high-tech boots. Furthermore, a palm print was found on the door to the wine cellar that did not match any family member. The most compelling evidence for the intruder theory, however, lies in the DNA. trace amounts of male DNA were found in the bloodstains on JonBenét's underwear and under her fingernails. As forensic technology advanced, this DNA was tested and retested. It did not match John, Patsy, or Burke. It did not match any of the friends who were in the house that morning. It was the genetic signature of an unknown male. For years, the prosecution argued that this could be contamination, DNA transferred from a factory worker who made the underwear or from the crime scene chaos. But in 2008, new touch DNA technology allowed for a more precise analysis. The results convinced the district attorney at the time, Mary Lacey, to issue a formal letter exonerating the Ramsey family and apologizing for the years of suspicion. She stated that the DNA profile was consistent with an unknown male perpetrator. Throughout the years, numerous suspects outside the family have been proposed. There was Bill McReynolds, who played Santa Claus at the Ramseys' Christmas party just days before the murder. He was an eccentric man who reportedly had a strange attachment to JonBenét, and his own daughter had been kidnapped years prior on exactly December 26th, a bizarre coincidence that investigators could never quite shake. However, his DNA did not match. Then there was the housekeeper, Linda Hoffman Pugh, who knew the house intimately and had financial difficulties. She had asked Patsy for a loan shortly before Christmas. She knew where the notepad was kept and knew about the bonus. Yet her alibi held, and she was cleared. Another suspect was Gary Oliva, a transient with a history of sex offenses who was found with a stun gun and newspaper clippings of JonBenét in his backpack. Some forensic pathologists argued that marks on JonBenét's body, initially thought to be abrasions, were actually stun gun burns used to subdue her. However, the stun gun theory is highly contested, and Oliva's DNA was not a match. In 2006, the world was briefly captivated by the arrest of John Mark Carr, a former teacher who confessed to the killing. He was arrested in Thailand and brought back to the United States. His confession was graphic and disturbing, detailing how he loved JonBenét and that her death was an accident. But as investigators drilled down, his story fell apart. He got key details of the crime scene wrong, his timeline didn't match reality, and most importantly, his DNA did not match the sample found on the body. He was revealed to be a delusional man, obsessed with the case, inserting himself into the narrative for notoriety. The legal journey of the case is just as twisted as the investigation. In 1999, a grand jury was convened to hear the evidence against the Ramseys. For over a year, they listened to testimony and reviewed thousands of pieces of evidence. In a shocking turn of events that was not revealed until 2013, the grand jury actually voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey on charges of child abuse resulting in death and being accessories to a crime. They did not vote to indict them for murder, but they believed there was probable cause that the parents had placed their child in a dangerous situation that led to her death and then helped cover it up. However, the district attorney at the time, Alex Hunter, refused to sign the indictment. He believed that the evidence was not strong enough to secure a conviction in a criminal court, specifically because of the DNA evidence that could create reasonable doubt. The case was effectively stalled. Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer in 2006, maintaining her innocence until her final breath. John Ramsey has spent the decades since trying to clear his family's name and find the true killer. He has been critical of the Boulder Police Department, accusing them of arrogance and a refusal to admit their early mistakes. The media's role in this case cannot be overstated. In the late 90s, the 24-hour news cycle was just coming into its own. The Ramsey case was perfect fuel. It had wealth, beauty, mystery, and a dark domestic setting. The tabloids ran wild with stories of secret abuse, pageantry horrors, and family secrets. The public became divided, with many people forming unshakable opinions based on television segments rather than evidence. The image of JonBenét in her pageant gear became the icon of the lost innocence of the decade. It sparked a national debate about child beauty pageants and the sexualization of children, a conversation that continues to this day. In recent years, the case has seen renewed interest. In 2016, a television network aired a docu-series that brought together a team of experts to re-examine the evidence. They concluded, controversially, that Burke Ramsey, the brother, was the most likely perpetrator, suggesting he hit her with a flashlight in a fit of anger over the pineapple, and the parents covered it up to save their only remaining child. Burke Ramsey, who is now an adult living a quiet life, sued the network for defamation and settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. He has vehemently denied any involvement. So, where does the case stand today? It remains an open homicide investigation. The Boulder Police Department still receives tips. The hope for a resolution now lies almost entirely with genetic genealogy. This is the same technology that caught the Golden State Killer. By uploading the unknown DNA profile from the crime scene into public genealogy databases, investigators hope to find distant relatives of the killer and build a family tree that leads them to a suspect. In late 2022 and throughout 2023, there was a renewed push by John Ramsey and online petition groups to force the Boulder police to hand over the DNA evidence to an independent agency that specializes in this advanced testing. They argue that the police have been gatekeeping the evidence to avoid the embarrassment of having an outside firm solve the case they bungled for nearly 30 years. The police have stated they are working with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the FBI to utilize the latest technology. But, as of now, no breakthrough has been announced. We are left with a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit. If it was the family, how do we explain the foreign DNA, the unknown palm print, and the high-tech boot print? If it was an intruder, how did they enter and exit without leaving more trace evidence? How did they know to write a 2.5-page note while inside the house? Why did they ask for that specific dollar amount? And why did they leave the body in the basement instead of taking her as the note threatened? The murder of JonBenét Ramsey is a tragedy of errors, a collision of a horrific crime with a botched investigation. It is a story about the secrets that families keep and the voracious appetite of the public for scandal. But beneath the headlines, the lawsuits, and the theories, there is the simple, heartbreaking fact of a 6-year-old girl who went to sleep on Christmas night and never woke up. Her life was stolen, and justice has been denied for decades. As we close this file, the question remains: is the killer still out there, hiding in plain sight, or have they been in the grave for years? Is the answer hidden in a lab report waiting to be processed? Or was it buried in the memories of a family under siege? This has been a deep dive by DCF Investigations. We want to know your thoughts. Do you believe the answers lie within the Ramsey home, or did a stranger slip through the night? Share your analysis in the comments below. Stay vigilant Stay curious, and we will see you in the next investigation.